Hi, I'm Joanne from the Full Spectrum Centre Limited, an award-winning wellness and vocational training centre, and you're listening to the Full Spectrum Wellness Podcast. This show is all about physical, mental, emotional and spiritual wellness, and it's for people who are looking to improve their overall health and well-being. Each week, I'll share with you all the positive takeaways, tools, techniques and tips that I've gathered in both my personal and professional wellness journey that will help you to look, feel and be well. With a dose of motivation and meditation to keep you going, I'll be joined by a few friends who will be sharing their insights along the way too. Welcome to episode 17 of our Full Spectrum Wellness Podcast. I'm so happy and excited to be back here with you for our 17th episode. I am once again honoured to be joined today by one of my amazing coaches and mentors, Lisa Phillips. Lisa, the author of the Confidence Coach book, founded Amazing Coaching in 2000 whilst living in Sydney, Australia. Now back in the UK, Lisa helps thousands of clients connect with their inner child, improve their confidence and manifest the life they want and truly deserve. So I hope you enjoy listening. Welcome, Lisa, to our Full Spectrum Wellness Podcast.
I am so excited to be here, Jo. So thank you for inviting me along.
I'm so excited too.
It's always nice to have a chat with you, actually. So I always look forward to the experience.
Me too. So I'm really interested to know about your journey to becoming a confidence coach and your journey with the law of attraction and also your wellness journey. But I wanted to start by asking you what the word wellness means to you.
Oh, good question. I like that. It's interesting, isn't it? For me, I would say wellness is how I feel as a whole. It's not just physical wellness. It's not just emotional wellness. It's that frisky feeling of get up in the morning and excited about the day. It's almost like cellular wellness, if that makes sense. Positive emotion. That's what it means to me. I like that. That's a great question.
I like that answer. That's fantastic.
Well, it's that feeling in the morning, isn't it? You know, that you're looking forward to the day and those sort of positive emotions, feeling good. Yeah.
Great. Also, I wanted to ask you what are your passions in life?
Well, that's a good question. Probably, to be honest, Jo, it probably links in to the wellness because I'm a huge believer in doing things that make me feel good.
Yeah.
So I think, if you'd asked me that question 10 years ago, I'd probably give you a very different answer. But now I can find passion in the most simple things, like a really good cup of coffee in the morning, because it brings me that positive emotion. It brings me those feelings of wellness, to be quite honest. So yeah, good coffee, lovely walk in the country, which I've been able to do. I've got a fetish, I think, for wellies, and that's wellies. Because I've got about 4 pairs and I just love. A couple of days ago I went out and they were covered in mud and I was just so excited and trying to find a puddle to jump in. But then there's, I guess, my career and what I do, which is about helping people feel good, helping people feel good about themselves and also not beat themselves up. So yeah, good question again, making me think this afternoon. And travel, always. I'm a bit of an adventure freak, and that's really important to me. I do, and the emotion of adventure is really important to me. And I know if I don't feel it, I don't feel passionate. So that's something I try to do that helps me with my wellness as well.
I love the fact that you love wellies.
I love them.
Jumping in puddles, because that links very much to your inner child work that you do with your clients as well.
Absolutely. Big fan of inner child work. Really enjoy it. And, what I've found, I've been working in this industry now for 23 years. And what I found is, inner child work is so transformational. And the universe will always bring the right clients to me that need that inner child work. And it's so important to let our inner child play, whether it's jumping in a puddle, eating ice cream. That's always my excuse, if I've scoffed out for the day. Because, inner child, in my, the way I look at things in my coaching is, our inner child has a lot to do with when we don't feel very good.
Yeah.
A lot of that programming we've had when we're younger, and we might try very hard rationally in our brains to try and overcome a feeling or an emotion, but a lot of that, it's held in our body.
Yeah.
And you'll know this from the work that you do. So I always say to clients, you can't put ice cream on top of poo. So we've got to sort out the inner child first of all, and then it's going to be so much easier to let the inner child have fun and play. So, we don't play enough, do we? What do you do, Jo, to play? What makes you smile?
No, so it's funny that you talk about wellies, because I think I mentioned this in our previous podcast when I was talking to a fellow therapist, Melanie. We were talking about how we are programmed, and a lot of things that happen to us in childhood we carry through as an adult.
Absolutely.
And because I didn't have a very fun childhood, I don't really know how to have fun as an adult. And I'm kind of still learning that. And I'm 52 in February and I'm still learning. But the wellies thing, it reminded me that I've learned how to play from my dog, especially Rosie. Rosie's very similar to me. She's had a lot of trauma as a young pup, same as I had a lot of trauma as a child. And she's learning just now at 15 years old how to play from our younger dog, Daisy, who's only 5. And they love nothing more than when we're out on a walk, if they see a pile of leaves, they just spend ages. I think it's the noise it makes and the crackling under their paws. That. And they love it. So I love putting my wellies on and finding the biggest pile of leaves. And we just I crunch the leaves under my wellies, and the look on their faces.
Brilliant.
That's my favorite thing to do.
I love that. And isn't that interesting as well? Dogs know how to play. Dogs are high vibrational. They'll just play. And and seeing a dog play, you play. And
absolutely.
That's lovely. That's really nice.
We just need to be more dog.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a bit of a cat lover, so maybe I need to be more cat as well. But just playing is so important. I was lucky. Absolutely. I've got twin nephews, and I was lucky, obviously, being Christmas time recently. I spent some time with them, and they just make you laugh as well, don't they? Kids, animals, because we do take life a bit too seriously, and I'm very guilty of doing that. But sometimes it's just jumping in that puddle, putting on my wellies, even wearing a silly hat or, something like that. It's so good for us at the end of the day, isn't it? It really is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When did you become interested in all this personal development? And I know you're big into the law of attraction. So when did that interest peak?
Do you know, it's really interesting, actually. It was about 25 years ago. And at the time, I was living in Australia. And a friend had come to visit me from the UK. And it was my birthday. And she bought me the Angel Numbers book. I don't know if the
Doreen Virtues.
And I was like, oh, this is interesting, with a bit of intrigue. And I remember reading it and thought, I really like this. And then the next thing I looked, Doreen Virtue was doing one of her 3-day workshops in Sydney.
In Australia?
In Australia. Wow. In Sydney, where I was. So it was a sort of natural leap to, I think I'm going to go to this. And what was so funny, it was, at the time I'd just moved to Sydney. It was an expensive time. And I remember saying to the angels, all right, bring me some money to do this workshop. And I always remember, because I found $300 on the floor.
You didn't.
I did. And I was like, oh my God, I found the amount of money to do this workshop. And I didn't know at the time. I was like, well, what do I do with it? Because it was literally, I got out my car and there it was.
It was just there on the pavement.
It was there on the pavement. And I remember thinking, well, there's no banks or cash points or anything near me, what do I do? And I was, funny enough, where I got out the car was a really, really sort of quite a wealthy area. And I remember that day just saying to myself, I'm receiving this.
Wow.
And I went on the course. So, I always laugh at that, because I think that was just divine timing and that's when I started to really get interested in the law of attraction. It wasn't always angels. I think that sort of just moved me into my work. And I was lucky enough at the time, when you're in Sydney, you get a lot of the big Hay House events going on. So, lots of Louise L. Hay, a lot of even, Deepak Chopra. I was able to sort of keep the momentum going by going to see all of these experts. And it was I just soaked in every minute of it, to be quite honest. I absolutely, the wisdom, it would just happen to be a really transformational sort of 6 months move, because I was an accountant at the time, which is really scary. And it's just almost like I was pushed into this completely different thought patterns, and that was the start of everything for me, to be honest.
Wow. And how did you transition from that into your journey into a confidence coach?
Well, again, that's quite an interesting story. I moved to Australia to do a new role with the company that I was working for at the time. And like I said, I was working as an accountant. And the boss that I was working for was toxic. And I was only there, I was in Sydney 6 months in this organization. And because this boss was extremely toxic, great company, by the way, they gave me a company credit card and said, literally stay at home and do any sort of wellness activity that you feel will help you. Wow. Because I'd been quite bullied by this manager. And I went to see a life coach. and they paid for it, obviously. And then I decided to do NLP. So I did a weeks-long intensive NLP with a fabulous trainer. I was having coaching sessions every week. And then I decided to book myself on. It was a year-long coaching course, which was every second weekend, full days, doing that. And that was then. And then the funny thing is I decided then not to go back to work where I was before and take their lovely payout, literally, that they gave me, was still in Australia, and then decided to start my own business. I did half and half at the time. I did half working for large corporate organizations and half on my own business. And that's how everything sort of fell into place, to be quite honest. So although I look back, it was really scary at the time because I'd only been in Sydney for 6 months and it looked like I could lose my job and my visa.
Yeah.
I know now that it was the universe leading me down a different path. And then from there, people like Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks, I'm big into their work, and I just use the law of attraction in everything I do, whether it's personally or with my clients as well.
Yeah, I know you're really passionate about that, aren't you?
I do. I've been on quite a lot of the cruises with Esther and Hicks and Abraham, and for me it's something I find really resonates. And I think, I don't know, I'm sure you'll agree, Joe, when we're all on our journey, we all find different experts that resonate with us. I know you like Bob Proctor, you're a big fan of his, and I think it's really important on our own journey to find those people that resonate with us, because I remember when I started my own coaching business, I'd see all this stuff coming through. I'd subscribe to all of these emails and I'd see all this information, and I really had to stop and say, hold on, this is my journey. Who works for me? Where can I get my support? And then I think, as time went on, learning to sort of think of myself as a toaster. And I know that's random, but I like to think of myself as a toaster, in that I need to plug into the universe and the law of attraction as opposed to plugging into what everybody else is doing, sort of thing.
I love that.
I always I'll say to myself during the day, where's your plug? Who you plugged into? And 9 times out of 10 it isn't the universe. I'm plugged into something else that's maybe triggering me or something like that. But I think it can really bring me back if I can just remind myself, hold on, where am I plugged in? So it's been an interesting old journey, to be quite honest. It has. And I can't say I've enjoyed every minute of it, because I think sometimes when you start on the own self-development and your stuff does come up. But I love working with my clients. That's something that really brings me joy. huge
And of
amount of
course,
joy.
your coaching has took you all over the world because you do the cruise ships and you do your coaching on the ship.
Absolutely. I'm very lucky. I manifested that as well, actually. I'd been on a cruise and saw Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks, and I thought, I want to do that. Public speaking, I'm one of those weird people that love it. So it was like, I want to bring my coaching on board and speak on cruise ships. And I used the law of attraction to
Was
actually
that
gain
something
that.
the ships offered before you did it, or were you like a pioneer in? Because we know
No.
that I've never been on a cruise, but I know that they do like after dinner shows and cabaret. I would never have thought they would have a life coach on a platform.
They do. Well, I think at the time, some coming out of the States were people like Esther Hicks, and she decided to run workshops on a cruise ship. So you would literally book to pay and see her on board for like 10 hours. So I knew it was possible. To be honest, I didn't even think it wasn't. And I just decided that I wanted to do that. And I imagined myself doing it. And I love cruising, I love travel. And then I received a phone call one day to say, hey, are you interested in doing this? And that was obviously, I was still in Australia at the time. So I was lucky enough to do so many cruises around, like all the little Pacific Isles, Fiji, New Zealand, Sydney. And obviously now I'm back in the UK, I'm still doing it. And it's something I love, to be quite honest, to be able to stand up on stage. And I talk about lots of general stuff. I talk about confidence and stress and people pleasing. But I don't know if anybody else does it like me, but I love it. It's great.
I've seen the photographs.
Somebody can't cook. It's really nice.
I'd love to come on a cruise and come to one of your events. It looks fabulous in the photographs.
You could do them yourself, young lady.
I don't
Absolutely.
know
To me, it's like a little holiday, getting fed and looked after, and I just have to pop onto stage for maybe sort of 35 minutes every few days. So,
wow. What a way to travel.
Absolutely. It is. It's fun.
And of course, you were on the TV in Australia doing your coaching as well.
Yeah, I did a lot in Australia, actually. I mean, I wrote the book, The Confidence Coach. That was always a passion of mine. I love to write. And I always wanted a book in a bookshop. That was big to me. And I did a lot of morning TV. I do think probably Australia are a little bit more used to using much more alternative therapies, much more open to alternate therapies and coaching.
Yeah.
And that was fun. I really enjoyed that. And what's been quite interesting is trying to do it back in the UK, and I need to plug my toaster in a little bit better there, is it tends to be the UK could be a little bit, they're always looking more for psychiatrists or psychologists, the scientific way. Whereas Australia, I mean, I did sort of 10 to 12 shows all about coaching. Which was fantastic. Again, something that, and again, I manifested that, to be quite honest, as well. So
you're a manifestation.
Yes and no. I think it's, for me, manifesting so much easier when you haven't got your pipes clogged with you can't do it.
Yes.
I've never spoken on a cruise before, so it was almost easier because I didn't have people say, no, you can't do that. Same with the TV. I never had people, had no idea. So I almost was able to manifest it quite quickly because I had nobody saying you can't do that or stuff. I think the issue comes when I've already convinced myself I can't do it. Then I've got to unclog my pipes before there's a clear channel to the manifestation.
Yeah. So that reminds me of one of Bob's teachings is when we're setting our goals, he always says, don't share that with anybody else.
So important.
Because most of the time, friends and family are going to go, what do you want to do that for? That's not going to work.
That's for, or that'll be hard. Or you can't do that. Don't you need a degree to do that? And, it clogs up the vibration, doesn't it? Yeah. You're absolutely right. And, I'll often say that to my clients when I've spoke with them and we've sorted out which direction they want to go. I'll go, well, don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. It's the worst thing you can ever do because people will clog your thoughts. But if you don't share almost and you haven't got any, I guess, preconceived ideas that it won't work, it's much easier to manifest.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Those big things you'd think like cruise ships and being on TV were really simple. to manifest. Whereas if I was trying to, I don't know, if I was trying to manifest a new relationship right now because I'm single, I'd have much more clogged pipes. And you might think that might be easier. But for me, it's not, because of maybe some clogged pipes in that area.
Yeah, so past experiences, whereas like you say, you'd never done the cruise ships or the TV before, so you hadn't had any bad experiences to kind of
plug it up,
those seeds of doubt in.
Yeah, absolutely. Infect it in some way. Yeah.
I'd like to ask you to share some of your personal wellness journeys and what are some of the biggest challenges you've faced with your own wellness?
Oh, good questions again. I think one of my biggest journey has been all around, funny enough, self-esteem, confidence and boundaries. That's, from a very sort of, I was always, I guess, I didn't really know what boundaries were. And very much I was about keeping other people happy all the time. Ended up in a toxic relationship. And my wellness has been really, how can I put this? Finding me. I know that sounds like really cliched or Miss World sort of thing. It's been to be unashamedly me, if that makes sense, authentically me. And that's been a huge journey from not speaking up because worried about what somebody might think, or not speaking up in case I upset someone, to now speaking up and not caring if they don't like it or not, you know. And that was a huge part of my wellness journey, finding to have the courage to be me, even finding out who I am, and then being okay to show up as that, I'm the only person in my sort of near family that's been self-employed, that's perhaps moved overseas and things like that. And now that I've moved back from Australia to the UK, in some ways that can be even harder, whereas now I'm really having to be very conscious about keeping me rather than, again, going back to old habits. So definitely that was a big part of my journey. Career-wise, it changes quite a lot. I've quite recently, just from being self-employed for so many years, I've just taken on some work, just working for a company just for a couple of days a week. That was quite interesting. It's something I thought I'd never do, go back to actually sort of corporate work. But it's actually something that's really, I'm enjoying at the moment. And part of that, to be quite honest, Jo, was the realization that I was doing everything on my own, living alone, working alone. And part of actually deciding to go back and do some work with an organization was to receive more instead of having to do it for myself, if that makes sense. Being able to share and be with people more during the day. So that's been a big thing as well, the allowing, the receiving people to help me and support me and look after me and care for me as well. So they're probably a couple of the key themes, but we never stop, do we?
No, we're a work in progress, aren't we?
Always are, and always trying to, like I said, remember who we really are before we get filled with lots of old programming and stuff like that. So we're always growing, we're always learning, and just as we think we're okay, then something else we never get it done.
No.
Definitely.
What do you do to de-stress? What are your favorite techniques?
I'm, despite doing a lot of TV and love of public speaking, I am an introvert.
See, I find that really hard to believe.
I
don't believe you, but
it's too much peopling. I find exhausting. Absolutely exhausting. So to keep my own wellness, I look at my diary and I will make sure there is sufficient alone time in there. And for me, it can be as simple as a really good book. When I allow myself that time, I feel my vibration raising again, which is all part of that wellness part. By listening to how my body feels, if I do something that goes against who I am, rectifying that as well, because if I don't feel good about something, that's not adding to my wellness either. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah.
Animals, big cat lover, and to me, I love spending time with. They add to my wellness. They make me laugh. They make me smile. Again, we're back to that. Anything that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like tomorrow, I've got a whole day to myself. I can't wait. And that will literally just be whatever I want to do. I think part of my wellness is a day where I get to choose whatever I want to do, rather than perhaps, I guess, sharing my time. That's the one day of the week, because I share a lot as a coach, and you'll be the same. We share a lot of our energy and giving. Whether it's a good book, a box of Maltesers, or let me just say, before we spoke today, I was watching Mary Poppins. I mean, seriously, I love Mary Poppins, and I just, that's a wellness thing. It's like, I can sing. Well, I can't sing, but just singing to her song, you can't help but laugh. So it's choosing to do things that make me feel good. That's really important for me. What do you do?
I love my meditation. I love solitude. I love just taking myself off, spending time with the dogs. That's my therapy. I can sit and stroke Rosie for hours, and that's why she worked as a therapy dog. She was so amazing at it. She's so intuitive. She always knows when I'm off vibration, and she'll just come and do what she needs to do to put me back in alignment. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, and obviously my crystals and my Reiki and self-healing is really a big part of my
absolutely. It's so important that. And you just reminded me that your meditation, especially your the digital sound bath, I love. That is part of my wellness. But you said something really important, that it's self-reflection. It's doing it for you, isn't it? It's whatever you need, to be quite honest, whether that's a book or a candle or Mary Poppins or some crystals. And I think it's doing it, not just saying you're going to do it, isn't it? It's actually doing it. And I think that can be hard sometimes when we don't feel, we're not having a good day, whereas actually that's the time we should be doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I totally agree with that.
And Rosie is very special, bless her.
She's such a blessing.
Oh, amazing.
I've the number of therapists that I've interviewed for these podcast episodes, that we're all kind of the same. I've said it on Mel's podcast. My mum was a nurse all her life, and she always used to say the doctors and nurses made the worst patients, because they're very good at dishing out the advice and not very good at taking it. And I think therapists and coaches can be in danger of doing the same thing. And I know
totally,
for me, it doesn't feel like work. So I do work. I'm a workaholic, but because it's not like going to a corporate job that you really don't like, I don't see it as work. But the danger is I can spend too many hours working, whether that's face-to-face with clients or just tinkering with the admin and stuff. So how do you keep that work-life balance?
I've been really poor at it recently, and one of the things I love to do is walk. And I noticed, I was out walking with a friend yesterday, and I said, there's one day I literally had done 55 steps all day from working from home. I mean, that's awful, isn't that? And that's what, when I tend to be really busy, I forget to do my walks. I forget to take that time for me. And work-life balance is really important. I know the difference it makes to me, that as a coach in particular, I can't see a client if I'm absolutely exhausted. But, being honest here, that's something I've almost decided I have decided to improve as of January. Not a huge fan of New Year's resolutions, but it's definitely something I've let go. I used to get up every morning and do 10-minute yoga, and I do a walk, or if not, I do them at lunchtime. And it's so easy to let it drop. And again, that's me not caring about how I feel. That's me more focused on doing rather than feeling.
Yeah.
To be quite honest. And I know how much better life feels. when we do put that work-life balance in. You know, if I'm coaching people on work-life balance, I'll often say, whose responsibility is it? And often they'll say it's my boss or my manager, and it's not. It's ours. You know, we get to choose at the end of the day whether we incorporate work-life balance into our own lives, and not just do that, stick to it, commit to it.
That's the key, isn't it? Especially in this time of year when everybody will be reflecting on the year and setting their goals for the new year. And like you say, I don't particularly like setting sort of New Year's resolutions because by February they're all out the window anyway.
Totally, yeah. Because they're things that don't inspire us. That's the thing. You've got to find something that inspires.
Yeah.
So what I've decided to do, I'm going to get a calendar. I'm going to give myself a gold star every time I do that, because, you know, I need to do more of that. I can't be coaching people on their work-life balance if I'm not practicing it myself. And you know that as well with your stuff, don't you? What do you do, Jo?
So although I don't like New Year's resolutions, my goal for next year is to get up at 6 a.m.
Oh,
I did try Robin Shower's 5 a.m. club, but 5 o'clock is way too early for me.
Oh no, absolutely.
But my coach Emma does a 6 a.m. club, so I'm supposed to join that every morning at 6.
Every morning?
Well, Monday to Friday.
Oh God, no! You see, well done if you do that. I think I probably have to set. But if it gets you moving and you enjoy it.
The times I've done it, I feel amazing, and they all right that time of the day when nobody else is up.
That's great.
I can get all my personal development stuff done before I then go and help other people. So I do benefit from it, but I just need to be a bit more disciplined. I go to bed earlier so that I get enough sleep that I can get up.
I love that. I'm going to let's check in a month's time, and you can let me know how you're going on that.
Accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we should both keep ourselves accountable there, because, like you said, when we do it, we know it's okay.
Yeah, and the album that I produced earlier this year, the morning and evening meditations, that I did that because when I had COVID, I was so poorly. I realized how out of balance I'd become by not having that set routine. So it was born out of doing it for myself and then realizing how beneficial it was that I then released it. So I definitely try and do a morning and evening routine.
I love that. And
it's meditation based.
I know the last time we spoke, you recommended that to me. So that sounds brilliant. I'll look and get that, because that's just what I need as well.
Yeah, I think it's so important to have it, whatever your daily self-care routine looks like. And like you say, one size doesn't fit all. So what I do for me might not work for you, and what you do might not work for everybody else, but it's finding what does work for you. But then, like you say, being consistent with it.
Absolutely.
And it takes scientifically proven to take 66 days to create a habit, whether that's positive or negative. So you've got to do it over and over again for at least 66 days before it's embedded. So
and then it'll be easy. Then it'll be easy. Yeah. So. Love it. Brilliant.
What are some of the most important lessons that you've learned in these journeys through your life so far?
Oh, gosh. Just sort of reflecting on what I mentioned earlier, I think the importance of self-regard, of seeing yourself through the eyes of love, seeing yourself as a great person. And then what that will almost is then when you see that, you allow more for yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think for so many years I relied on how I felt about myself was more about how others saw me. You know, obviously, even I'm not a mind reader, but I just made these assumptions, and I realized giving myself high self-regard was one of the greatest gifts I could actually do. And it was interesting from there, then allowing myself to have a great life, you know, and now I'll say, why not? Why not me? I think another thing I've learned is, you know, independence is not always a great thing. And that's something I've had to work on, almost always deciding, oh, I'll do that myself. I can just do that myself. When I realize now I broke my foot last year, and it was actually really lovely to have people looking after me and stuff like that. And that's been a definitely something that I've learned, that I don't have to do everything on my own.
Yeah.
And it's nice to allow people in which is lovely. And interestingly enough, it's something just over the past few weeks where I've very easily, let's say I've been asked to go out to something in the evening. I'm, as an introvert, it's so easy for me to say, oh no, just put my pajamas on and I'm not going out. But I sort of gave myself a little bit of a challenge to go, even if I didn't feel like it. And actually, it's been really interesting because it's really made me laugh and smile, because I've done some things and met some really amazing people, which normally I'd be like, I'm just staying in. So that's probably one that I'm going to continue definitely until next year.
So pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say pushing myself out of my laziness zone, actually. It's probably important. Or pushing myself out of my pajama zone.
There's nothing wrong with staying in your pajamas.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you get new ones for Christmas. It's like, I'm not getting out of these.
Always get new pajamas at Christmas. The first thing I do when I finish work is put my Christmas pajamas on, shut the door.
Love it.
Reset.
Love it.
And finally, before we go, what advice would you give to someone who wants to live a healthier, happier and more balanced life?
I guess there's that question, why not you? You know, whether it's a happier, more abundant, healthier, it doesn't matter. It's all a feeling. We're always after a feeling. You know, ask yourself, why not you? You know, why shouldn't you have everything, be everything, feel everything? You know, the universe didn't say yes to you, yes to you, yes to you. No, Joe, you can't have that. I'm sorry, because you were really I don't know, you forgot to do your homework in 1975. You know, it's we do that to ourselves. We exclude ourselves. And you know, you don't have to be more, you are already. You don't have to keep trying to feel more worthier or feeling like more deserving. You are already that.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe asking yourself, why not? Why not me?
I love that.
I'm glad. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast episode. I'm so grateful that you opened up and shared some really important points, and I hope that, and I know that is going to help a lot of our listeners. So thank you so much.
Always my pleasure, Joe. I know the universe sort of introduced me to you just through the pandemic, really, as well. So I'm very, very grateful and very appreciative that you asked me to come along today. So thank you so much. Always a pleasure to talk with you.
Ditto. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, my love.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as I love chatting to Lisa. Lots of food for thought and inspiration, and my absolute favourite quote ever: you cannot put ice cream on top of poo. In other words, we need to deal with our bad stuff, whether that be trauma or negativity, before we can welcome the good stuff. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. I hope you found the discussion and the tips covered really helpful. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you enjoyed this episode, please do leave a rating and a review and share it with your friends and family. Pop along to our website at thefullspectrumcentrelimited.com and join our self-care and wellness newsletter club. You'll receive our free 55-page printable self-care guide and workbook. Well, that's all for this episode, but I really look forward to seeing you next week. Take care and bye for now.